Credit card debt doesn't start with a mistake. It starts with a good month, a raise, a stable job, the feeling that money is finally under control. That's when the trap opens, and interest starts claiming your future. By the end of this story, you'll understand how regular people quietly slide into revolving debt without ever feeling irresponsible, and the exact turning point that pulls them out before interest takes ownership of their future. If you use a credit card, this story is about you. If you've ever carried a balance, this story is already inside your math. Stay with me, because the most dangerous debt doesn't announce itself. It normalizes. Meet Daniel Brooks. He's 38 years old, lives in Columbus, Ohio, married, one child, works as a project manager for a mid-sized construction firm, or annual income, $94,000. Credit score, 728. No gambling, no addictions, no luxury obsession. On paper, Daniel is doing everything right. He pays his bills on time. He saves a little each month. He's never missed a credit card payment. And that's what makes this story dangerous. Daniel didn't fall into debt because he was reckless. He fell into it because he was normal. Like most households in America, Daniel didn't use credit cards to live beyond his means. He used them to move faster. Groceries at the end of a long workday. Gas on the way to school pickup. Subscriptions that made evenings easier. The occasional family dinner when time ran out before energy did. Nothing dramatic, nothing reckless. Just life. Paid for digitally. That's what made it invisible. Daniel didn't sit down one night and decide to borrow money at 22% interest. No one does. There was no moment of awareness where he agreed to hand over a piece of his future income to a bank. He didn't sign up for debt. He signed up for convenience, one swipe at a time. Each tap felt small, familiar, harmless. The amounts were easy to ignore because the process itself was painless. No cash left his hand. No balance dropped in front of his eyes. Just a quiet confirmation, and the next task is waiting for attention. This is where the real trap begins. The danger isn't spending, it's forgetting. Credit cards separate the moment you buy from the moment you pay. Your brain closes the transaction immediately, but your finances don't. The purchase feels finished, even though the obligation is just starting. That gap between emotional closure and financial reality is where debt quietly grows. Daniel wasn't tracking each swipe. He was tracking life, deadlines, family, work, everything except the accumulating total. And because nothing felt urgent, nothing felt wrong. That's why credit card debt rarely feels like a crisis at first. It feels like order. Bills are paid. Life continues. The balance sits there quietly, waiting for interest to do its work. Most people think debt comes from bad choices. In reality, it comes from unexamined habits, from systems that run automatically while attention is focused elsewhere, from math that compounds faster than awareness. Daniel trusted that he'd deal with it later. Later always feels far away when things are stable. That's how forgetting becomes expensive. Banks understand this deeply. They don't rely on people being irresponsible. They rely on people being busy, on friction disappearing, on spending becomes effortless while tracking becomes optional. And once spending becomes invisible, forgetting becomes inevitable. By the time awareness catches up, interest has already started to rewrite the math. Not loudly, not aggressively, just consistently. That's the credit card trap. Not excess, not indulgence, but forgetfulness, financed at compound interest. And the longer it goes unnoticed, the harder it becomes to escape. When Daniel paid with his card, nothing left his hands. No cash, no physical signal of loss, just a tap, a beep, and life moved on. Psychologists call this payment decoupling, when spending and pain are separated. Banks call it profitability. Daniel's card carried an APR of 21.4%, close to the US average for revolving credit cards, according to the Federal Reserve. But Daniel didn't see 21.4%. He saw minimum due $78. That's the illusion. The minimum payment feels responsible, but it's designed to keep the balance alive, not kill it. This is where math quietly changes ownership. Interest compounds monthly. Income arrives bi-weekly. Awareness fades daily. Daniel wasn't falling behind. He was drifting. There were no warning signs, no overdue bills, no urgent calls from the bank. From the outside, everything looked steady. His income covered his expenses. His credit score stayed healthy. Life moved forward without friction. Daniel never upgraded his house. He never bought a luxury car. He didn't start living extravagantly, but his life got denser. Streaming services stacked quietly. One for movies, one for sports, another for the kids. Food delivery replaced cooking on busy nights. Convenience fees slipped into transactions everywhere. Delivery charges, service fees, priority access, and monthly upgrades that promised ease. None of it felt excessive on its own. That's what made it dangerous. Lifestyle creep doesn't announce itself with champagne and confetti. It doesn't show up as a bold decision. It arrives as comfort, as efficiency, as small upgrades that make days smoother and evenings easier. Over time, those comforts harden into expectations. What once felt optional becomes normal, and what becomes normal stops getting questioned. Daniel didn't feel like he was spending more. He felt like life was simply fuller. But fuller doesn't always mean better. Sometimes it just means heavier. That's how lifestyle creep works. It doesn't shock you into awareness. It eases you into acceptance. And by the time you notice the weight, it's already part of your monthly math. If this part of the story feels familiar, you're not alone. $18 here, $27 there, $9 forever. Daniel's monthly card balance hovered around $6,800. Not terrifying, just heavy. And here's the danger. When debt feels manageable, urgency disappears. Have you ever felt lifestyle pressure tighten your cash flow without changing your lifestyle? Comment yes or no. Daniel paid the minimum every month, always on time, always proud. But here's the truth most people miss. At 21% APR, paying the minimum keeps you in debt for decades. According to Consumer Financial Protection Bureau data, a $6,800 balance with minimum payments can take over 25 years to pay off, costing more than double the original amount. Interest doesn't care that you're responsible. It only cares that the balance survives another cycle. This is compounding, working against you. And compounding never negotiates. Then this happened. Daniel's company froze bonuses during a slow quarter. Income didn't fall, but margin disappeared. Suddenly, the minimum payment felt heavier. Not painful, just noticeable. That's when stress begins. Cash flow stress doesn't scream, it whispers. It forces trade-offs. Savings pause. Emergencies go on cards. Balances rise quietly. Daniel told himself it was temporary. That's how most traps stay open. One night, Daniel checked his statement. In total interest paid that year, $1,446. That number hit differently. That wasn't convenient. That was rent paid to the bank. That was money that could have gone to savings, investments, or his child's future. This was the turning point. Not panic, clarity. Daniel realized something simple and brutal. The bank wasn't his partner. It was his landlord. Daniel didn't rely on motivation. He built a structure. Here's what changed everything. 1. He froze the card physically. Not closed, just inaccessible. 2. He listed every balance with APR, highest to lowest. 3. He chose the avalanche method, attacking the highest interest first. 4. He automated aggressive payments, not minimums. 5. He canceled subscriptions ruthlessly. 6. He restored friction, cash and debit for daily spending. This wasn't emotional. It was operational. Turnarounds aren't feelings. They're systems. As balances fell, something flipped. Cash flow improved. Stress dropped. Options returned. Daniel wasn't richer yet, but he was freeing future income. Interest stopped owning him. He reclaimed the runway. People who retire wealthy sequence payoff before lifestyle. Everyone else hopes income fixes math later. Not flashy, just stable. He uses credit cards again, but differently. Balances cleared monthly. Cash flow is tracked weekly. Spending intentionally. Credit became a tool again, not a trap. Do you see yourself becoming wealthy someday? If yes, drop your wealth role model in the comments. This story isn't just about credit cards. It's about attention. Debt doesn't begin with a crisis. It begins with comfort. And freedom doesn't begin with income. Or it begins with awareness. Credit cards don't destroy people. Unexamined habits do. If this story felt uncomfortably familiar, share it with someone you care about. We post real finance stories every single day. Stories that don't shame, don't lecture, and don't sell fantasies. Subscribe so you never miss the next one that could save you money or make you money. And remember this truth: interest compounds silently. So does discipline. Subscribe, like, drop your comment. Catch you in the next story.